Greetings, Jade Barrett from the Great American Bridge Tour. And here we are in South Dakota, getting ready for another bridge tournament. Tournaments are often like the weather. It's always a great day for a tournament, particularly if there's no cloud in the ceiling. But sometimes we have stormy tournament days where things don't go as well, or there's a shock or a surprise. Trumps go really bad. You have this great auction to get to 4 hearts and find out that not only do you have no play, somebody remembered to double, and suddenly you have this terrible result. And the next thing you do is you have to not think about that. I have been telling people for decades about how to avoid having 2 bad results in a row. Part of it is everybody says, forget that one. We're going on to the next one. I'll tell you a story. About 30 years ago, 25 anyway, I was playing with a 10,000 point player at the time. That was a lot back then. Named Miles Adkins. He was a farmer out in eastern Washington. And I was playing with him the first time in a pair event. And on the very first board, I did something uncharacteristically terrible. I mean, it was just awful. And I said to Miles, Miles, I can't believe I was such an idiot on that hand. And Miles said, no problem. Lots of bridge to play. Just relax. Everything will be fine. And I thought for a moment. I said, God, that was just so stupid. He said, don't worry about it. Here, why don't you go get some coffee? And, I went over, I got coffee, I came back, I sat down, and I looked at him, and I said, well, Miles, I can't believe I was such a moron on that hand. And Miles said, if you want me to disagree with you, you will have to change the subject. That's a partner. His humor on this has never been lost on me. And it wasn't about how the next things are coming, and that you have to be ready. What you also have to be is aware that gain and loss is part of the same coin. And a lot of these investments in your game are these hands that just go really bad, or you've done something that you really shouldn't do, or people are doing things against you that you don't recognize are as good as yours or better. They just think differently. I know that for many of us, when we're first starting out in tournaments, there's all of this cacophony of sound and noise and cards and people. One of the things about being online is that that circus is not going on. It's just us in our office or our kitchen or on our tablet or wherever we are. They're by ourselves, but we're not really. This game is played entirely in the mind. And it's hard to stay focused sometimes and connected to your partnership when you don't have that person right in front of you. It's hard to recognize that people on your right or on your left are people. And sometimes we know the names, and sometimes we don't. But there are people who will say to me, when they've done something uncharacteristic, that the reason they have is because they were intimidated. I promise you, the only one who intimidates you in this game is yourself. Nothing I do as a player, right? Nothing that anybody does as a player can't be done by somebody else. Now, maybe through our life experience, and I've got 52 years of it, I'm going to know some things that you don't, but that's an awareness thing. That's knowledge. That's not ability. That's library. working very hard makes us peers. And if you've had this bad result, trust me, lots of us have had really bad results. I mean, there are plenty of stories over the decades of great teams having a terrible match, or playing 7 hearts when they were called for 7-no, or even a famous match where a team who was leading an event played in their 1-1 diamond fit at the 6th level in the process of losing a gigantic lead in the Vanderbilt or Spin Gold, I can't remember which. That happens. You don't necessarily have to take comfort in that, but what you do need to take is awareness of it. This game is almost always lost. It's almost always lost because we don't do something because we're afraid, or we don't do something because we're anxious, or we're concerned about not being understood, or we're afraid that whatever we do isn't going to work and partner isn't going to like that. All of those contribute to a bad result. And when you have one, it's very important that you identify why you had a bad result. Most of the time when people go over hands, they don't really need to know that aces beat kings or queens beats jacks. What they need to know is why you personally, the person who is aired, why did you do that? What caused you to think in a particular manner? The other night, I was playing with a student, fine, and he said, well, I counted the hand. And I had to take some exception to that. I hadn't shown up with any points in spades and any points in hearts and only 2 points in diamonds, and I had opened. I mean, I opened the bidding. Now, those of you who know me by reputation know that I'm very aggressive opener. Sometimes I'll open as light as 8. But even so, I mean, you've seen a queen, maybe 2 by this point. You might think that I have something in the 4th suit. But the problem is that there was a strong no trump that had been bid. And you could count out the hand. Counting is simply a matter of effort. Most people say they're counting, but they're not. Most people say they're watching all the cards, but they're not. They'll tell me that they've read all the notes on a particular device. They haven't. The only way that we know that we personally have done the right thing is to know that we really are working as hard as we can, that we are counting, right? That we know what the bids mean. I mean, your partner opens a no trump, somebody bids 3 hearts, pretty much know that that's a preemptive heart bid. Well, let's say that your partner opens a no trump and they bid 2 diamonds and they've alerted, and you know there's some explanation on the screen, but you haven't really paid attention to it because you're too busy deciding what to do with your hand without really thinking about how what this person has done or has not done is going to affect what you need to do. And if you lose a board because you didn't pay adequate attention, like you knew that it was spades and a minor, but really you didn't know that so much as you heard it. The moment you hear something, the moment you know something, in the mathematical sense that it's a proven or it's a given, maybe you ought to say it to yourself. So if you're my partner and you open a no trump and the guy bids 2 hearts on my right and it says hearts and spades, what I say to myself is, he has hearts and spades. I do that because I want to avoid making mistakes. Alan Sontag made a great comment one time. I remember I was playing against him, and he had this statement that, that experts are experts because they don't screw up the easy hands. Right? It's not about making the good hands. It's about not screwing up the easy ones. That's true. And we screw up the easy ones all the time because we don't listen to the opponent's auction. We're so busy wanting to make sure that we're heard that when we bid, we're actually waiting to talk as opposed to listening. We kind of pay attention to partner signals, but we're still concerned about how we or I am going to beat the hand as opposed to we beating the hand. All of those contribute to bad results. You get bad results because sometimes the opponents do something really good against you. You're playing against the one pair in the room who's playing the right device at the right time. And you get that. That's a bad result. They beat you. You didn't lose. Now let's say that same situation. The opponent's playing an unusual device, and you allow yourself to be distracted by what the device is, and you don't bid when you should, or you bid when you shouldn't, based on the knowledge of that bid. Now you're losing. A bridge player has to be vigilant, the same way that you are as a competitor in any sport or any field that your business or your life has been involved with. Whenever there's a competitive thing, bidding, whatever, contracts, negotiations, all of those things require great listening. How you survive having really bad results is to learn from them. And the thing that you're going to learn the most is that it's time to listen. And that next time, I'll get it right. Maybe you won't. But you're going to listen for the answer. And the answer comes from your partner. It comes from the opponents. And remember, sometimes it actually comes from you. Have a great tournament. This is Jade Barrett, Great American Bridge Tour, surviving the tournament environment.